Our project is titled China Market Strategy Map, Analysis of the Core Issue for China Enterprises, International Expansion. I'm CEO Chen, presenting overall the framework, followed by Yuxi Gu, Ke Yunliu, Mu Yunzhou, and Chen Xuyang, who will cover economic development, cultural differences, industry trend, and legal risks, respectively. Okay, slide one. Good morning, everyone. I'll explain how globalization has transformed China's political economy and what this means for China and companies. I'll highlight four key systems: political, economic, eco, and social cultural, show the overall impact of globalization, and finish with the main risk for China firm. Overview, we will move through each system and look at how globalization shaped China's development and finish with the challenge and Australian business might face when into China. Next slide is political system. China opened its market and joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, which increases engagement of all international institutions and trade norms. But the Communist Party has kept firm one-party control. Instead of political liberalization, the government adopts a selective reform to improve transparency while maintaining ultimate authority. At the same time, China has extended its global influence through the UN, the WTO, and the Belt and Road Initiative. Economic system, market reform and foreign investment turned China into the world's second largest economy and top exporters. Globalization helped lift through 800 million people out of the poverty and unprecedented an achievement. Now the country is shifting towards service and domestic consumption. However, inequality between coastal cities and inland regions and serious environmental problems remain a big challenge. Legal system, to join the global economic China modern trade, corporate and intellectual property laws court are more professional than they were ever a few decades ago, but they still operate under party oversight. Foreign business often describes the legal environment as improved yet unpredictable, with sudden regulatory challenges and uneven emphasis. Social cultural system, globalization has brought Western brand, music, fashion, and digital culture into China cities, especially among younger people who are high connect with tech savvy. At the same time, government promoted traditional cultural and social core values to protect national identity, creating a mixed modern global trend and receiving traditions. Overall impact, in short, globalization powered China rapid growth, raising living standard and gave it a central course in global supply chains and international finance. But it's also brought inequality, environment damage, and new social pressures. China now is the major global player while remaining dead its own system. Challenge for Australian firm. For Australian companies, the opportunity are huge, but so are the legal institution risk, intellectual property and protection has improved, yet enforces gap remains. So registering the patent and trade market early is critical. Contracts can be hard to enforce in local court, so many firms use international operations. Regulations can change suddenly, and China data privacy and cybersecurity laws require local data and storage, strict government approval for cross-border transfers. Globalization has reshaped China's political system while the Communist Party retained over control. For Australian firms, the key is careful planning, protect the international property, write a clear contract and arbitration clauses, and stay compliant with data and regulatory requirement. If those steps are taken, China market offers enormous potential deficit risk. Okay, now I will hand my presentation to Yuxi Gu for section 2.
Thank you, Siyuan, and I will take on question 2 for China and go straight to what matters. We base our entry on PPP GNI per person because it reflects what customers can really afford. With this angle, we can set price brands and choose the right city tiers. At the same time, I keep HDI, the Human Capital Index, and Gini Index in view, since they point to talent needs, training, and how demand is spread. A quick picture helps. China's HDI is around 0.8, which is solidly spaced. Income per person is about 13,660 in Atlas dollars, but also close to 22,000 in PPP terms. And also prices and incomes also vary a lot by city tier. So the nominal demand dollars can mislead pricing while PPP stays closer to buying power. The toolkit covers the market from different angles. Income levels show the base, and also HDI, IHDI show outcomes for people. We can see the human capital. The human capital index points to future skills, and also Gini shows how widely demand is distributed. Together with this, they let us read the market without overlap. Now the snapshot and what is matters. HDI near 0.8 and the life expectancy near 78 years old, suggesting a strong base. And also PPP income near 22,000 shows spending power, yet it differs by city tier. So a tiered offer matters. And HCI around 0.65 tell us training and standard process are important in year 1. Also finally, Gini in the mid-30s means segmentation and channel targeting are necessary. Here is how we prioritized on relevance and speed to act. PPP sits highest because it gives clear rules for pricing and rule out. And also HDI and HCI come next as they guide paths, hiring, and training. Finally, Geni's promotion depth and channel mix, where Atlas is better for cross-country and comparison than local pricing. PPP leads for 4 linked reasons. It matches local prices and it aligns with HDI. Also, it covers quickly into a price ladder and a city plan. Finally, and it comes from credible, regularly and updated resources. That is why we anchor on PPP before anything else. So the first year playbook is short and practical. We build a 3-step ladder with flagship, core, and value using PPP thresholds by city tier. We start in Tier 1 and new Tier 1, then expand to strong Tier 2 clusters. We set up hubs and training with HDI and HCI, and we also use Genie to tune promotion depth and channel choice. Each quarter we review results and adjust. And we can also see this chart. The chart makes the pricing point clear. We indexed the 2 measures so PPP equals 1 and Atlas is about 0.62. The gap explains why we price with PPP and keep Atlas for benchmarking and external reports. And here is my reference on the screen and then support the figures and metrics we used. With that, I hand over to Ke-Yun Liu, who will turn these inputs into the product's offer and the channel strategy for launch in China.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm luckily Ke-Yun Liu from the research team. Today I will use 2 simple series to check the cultural distance between China and Australia, and then talk about whether our culture are getting more similar or different. First, let's use series theory. This is a popular tool for comparing cultures. The first dimension is power distance. China scores 80 out of 100 is high. In Chinese companies, employees don't usually disagree with their leaders, and people trust the government. Australia scores 36 and is low. Australians more care about equality, and people even joke about public figures. For Australian firms, this gap can be tricky. The flat management where everyone's equal might leave Chinese teams waiting for clear orders. Less individualism with collectivism. Do we put group or ourselves first? China scores 20. We share credit for teamwork and we avoid messing up group harmony. Australia scores 90. Personal achievements get rewarded and people change jobs to grow their own careers. A study even found Australian individual boundaries made Chinese team work 28% less well together. So this difference really matters. The third is the uncertainty avoidance, how we handle risk. China scores 40. Chinese like rules and use past data, not new and tested ideals. Australia scores 51. Australian love taking risks, and the future is just learning. If an Australian firm wants to launch a new product in China, do small trials first. Chinese customers need to know it's reliable. Last, the long term and the short term orientation. The we plan for the future focus on now. China scores 87. The investor long term, like Huawei spending years on 5G, even when it didn't make money. Australia scores 31. Firms care about quarterly results, and people switch jobs for quick gains. Chinese suppliers also hate short contracts. They think long term partnerships are safer. Now let's use Rowan and Shakan theory. This groups countries with similar cultures. The bigger the cluster gap, the bigger the cultural distance. Australia is the Anglo cluster with the US and the UK. These cultures are equal and talk business directly. China is in the East Asian cluster. These cultures build relationships first. For example, Australian firms want to talk contrasts as the first meeting. Chinese firms want to have dinner or tea first to trust each other. This mix up makes negotiations 37% lower than when two countries are in the same cluster. It's a big challenge for Australian firms to overcome. Now let's go into the most important question. Are our culture getting more meaning or different? The answer is more meaning. Globalization is bringing us closer. In business, Alibaba uses Australian-style individual rewards, and Volvo does team building for Chinese staff. In culture, Sydney's 2024 Lunar New Year Dragon Boat race had overcome 100,000 locals, and Australian flag boats White sells 100 million cups a year in China. Even young people are smiling. 62% of young Australians and 58% of young Chinese buy eco-friendly products. However, in some respects, there are still differences. The money value doesn't change easily. Respect for family keeps 78% of young Chinese work in their hometown to care for parents. Only 32% of young Australians stay local. They move for jobs. Humor is different too. Chinese jokes use wordplay, while Australian joke about themselves. This causes mix-ups. Australian self-jokes might make Chinese staff misunderstand they are not good at their job. These gaps won't go away soon. To sum up, Chinese and Australian have clear cultural distances, but globalization is making us a bit more similar. For Australian firms, using these journey findings, such as testing products or building relationships first, will help them succeed in China. Okay, that's all my parts. Now let us welcome Zhongyun to talk about the next section.
Hi everyone, I'm Mu Yun. Now I'm going to talk about which industry should China focus when following Adam Smith's theory and David Ricardo's theory, and in my opinion, which policy should China follow. So according to Adam Smith, he proposed that when a country produces a good is more efficient than any other country, this country has an absolute advantage in the production of it. And the countries should focus on the production of goods which they have an absolute advantage, and then trade these goods for the goods produced by other countries. So for the question about which industry should China follow according to Adam Smith, my first answer is manufacturing. China is a country which is known as manufacturing powerhouse, and for the reason why it is called a manufacturing powerhouse is because its low labor costs, including low wages, developed supply chain, low tax rates and tariffs, Also initiatives to attract foreign manufacturers and a competitive currency practice. According to the data released by the United Nations Statistics Division, in 2023, China's manufacturing output accounted for 29% of the global total, which was nearly 12 percentage points higher than that of the US. So China has the lowest unit costs in manufacturing, uses the least labor per unit, but has the highest productivity. It's got an absolute advantage, which is one of the industries that should be focused. China's high-tech industries are also famous. As shown in this figure, the key sectors for China's high-tech industries include IT, advanced manufacturing, and renewable energy, and so on. The rise of private tech companies like Alibaba and Tencent are essential to the development of the high-tech industries, and this industry attracted many highly educated talents which greatly develop its production efficiency and effectiveness. Also, there has the full support of China government which can reduce most of the costs. So in the high-tech industry, even if countries use the same amount of input, China has the ability to produce more products. For the theory held by David Ricardo, countries should specialize in the production of those goods they produce most efficiently and buy goods that they produce less efficiently from other countries. So, according to this theory, as a country with abundant labor, China has a comparative advantage in labor-intensive industries, especially the industries of textiles, footwear, furniture, and apparel. Firstly, China has a large population, and there are many substantial surplus labor force in rural areas, and labor-intensive industries have a high demand of labor. Then China has a developed industrial chain which reduces costs. For example, the Pearl River Delta in Guangdong has a large number of textile and apparel industries. These industries can produce the needed products in a short period of time, and this kind of industry chain advantage is not available in most countries. And the government also implements policies such as tax incentives and land support for labor-intensive industries, which reduces the operating costs and attracts many domestic and foreign investment. So this makes the production efficiency of labor-intensive industries very high. And these industries have a distinct comparative advantage when looking to trade with other countries. In my opinion, the Chinese government should follow David Ricardo's theory when engaging in international trade. When following his theory, as a typical developing country, China has abundant natural resources and lower labor costs, so it should focus on labor-intensive industries, export low value-added products, and import products which it has a comparative disadvantage. In this way, China can save labor resources and reap the benefits of specialized division of labor, and such international trade can improve production efficiency both in China and across the world and bring benefits to all countries. And there are many policies proposed by Chinese government like the Belt and Road Initiative demonstrate that China's willingness to deepen international cooperation, which is in line with David Ricardo's theory. This helps reduce trade barriers and strengthen the connections between countries' global economy. However, of course, it is also important that China's comparative advantage is declining some areas now. So when China is developing its existing comparative advantages, it should also continue to explore new comparative advantages to better develop itself and strengthen the international trade between countries. So my conclusion is that China should focus on manufacturing and high-tech industries when following Adam Smith's theory, and focus on high-intensive industries when following David Ricardo's theory. And China may be more suitable for following David Ricardo's theory. These are my reference. Okay, thanks. Next, Chen Xu will going to talk about China's trade theories and policy tools.
Okay, hi, I'm Chen Xuyang. Today I want to talk about China's trade policies, tools, and their connection with international trade theories. The focus will be on tariffs, free trade zones, and industrial policies, because these are the most important parts of China's trade strategy. Let's start with tariffs. When China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, the average tariff rate dropped from more than 14% in 1990s to around 15%. This made importance such as machinery much cheaper and encouraged the growth of the manufacturing sector. A study in the World Bank Economy Reviews points out that these tariff cuts help China's structural transformation by moving many workers from farming into factories. Another tool is free trade zones. A well-known case is the Shanghai Free Trade Zone, which started in 2013. It gave foreign banks and shipping companies easier access to the Chinese market. Research in sustainability shows that free trade zones supported faster growth and more innovation, especially in the central and western China, where development was weaker before. And the third tool is industrial policy. The Chinese government gives subsidies and tax benefits to high technology industries. For example, the policy known as Made in China 2025 supports areas such as semiconductors and electric vehicles. During the trade conflict with the United States, these policies help Chinese companies improve the quality of their exports and stay competitive. Evidence from PLOS1 confirms that industrial policy played an important role in upgrading China's export. These policies also reflect different trade theories. Tariff reductions fit Ricardo's comparative advantage theory because they allow China to specialize in labor-intensive products such as textiles and toys. The Heckscher-Ohlin theory is visible in China's shift from labor-intensive exports to capital and technology-intensive exports like electronics and machinery, supported by free trade zones. Strategic trade theory is clear the use of subsidies for sectors such as electric vehicles, showing how government support can build competitiveness in industries with economies of scale. When we look at the results, there is both openness and government control. Tariff cuts and free trade zones show openness to global trade, while subsidies and industrial policies show strong state involvement. But there are also challenges. Subsidies often create disputes. For example, when the United States criticized China's support for electric vehicles, frequent changes in trade policy bring uncertainty, which makes some foreign investors cautious. Free trade zones have been successful in coastal cities like Shanghai, but they are less effective in inland provinces. And in conclusion, China's trade policy is a combination of openness and government support. Tariff cuts, free trade zones, and industrial subsidies connect with both classic theories like comparative advantage and Heckscher-Ohlin, and modern theories like strategic trade. These tools have supported China's economy growth and shaped its role in the global economy. That is the end of my presentation, and these are my reference lists. And to wrap up, China is growing quickly and becoming more open to the world. For Australian companies, this brings both chances and challenges. The culture may feel different, but if we try to understand it and adjust our way of doing business, we can find real opportunities. In the end, success is not only about the market, but also about building trust and learning to work together. That's all of our group presentation. Thank you.